Well, hi, everybody. Welcome to the Gypsy Moto Show. I'm Brett Winsel, and I have along with me Chip Brock and Aaron Lawley.
Hey, guys.
All right. Well, we're glad everybody's here. We got a lot of exciting stuff to talk about tonight. We're going to be talking about some of the races coming up. We've got a bunch of other kind of interesting things, so just hang on. I think you'll have a good time. First thing we kind of want to do is give you a few Gypsy Moto updates. We have been looking at a new starting gate. We've been talking about that. We kind of finalized that today, and it's going to be a 42-man gate, so that's going to be awesome. The first race, however, the District 30, we will not have it in time, it doesn't look like, for that. So the District 30, that'll be the last race on the old 24-man gate, and then it'll be decommissioned. So that's kind of fitting. I don't know. That's kind of one of those things. It's done a lot of work for us, so we might as well give it a good.
That's a good send off.
Yeah. Right. And then it'll become probably the new kids moto gate at that point, and then maybe part of our hill climb. Some of the new things we're going to be doing over there. We're at the Verticross. We're kind of thinking about doing at least 4 men up at a time. So some of the parts of that might go into being the new 4-man gate at the Verticross and that kind of thing.
Now, when we set up the new gate, is it still going to be a dirt start?
We're still going to do a dirt start, and then the plans are once all the infrastructure's in, won't be this year, but once all the infrastructure's in, hopefully next year, then we'll go to the expanded metal start. So it'll still be a expanded metal dirt to dirt start,
Gotcha.
Not a concrete. Just I think it's kind of one of those things that the industry's going that way. It makes so much sense. Makes for a great even start for everybody, and then the only thing you really deal with is just that, which is the trench in front of the gate, which is just part of our sport. So, then the other thing that's kind of cool is we have 3 different people that have approached us to do schools, motocross schools this year. They're all looking like they're going to be in June, and we're still working on some of the dates. So some of that's going to change back and forth. One of the real exciting things is we've been contacted by Moto Academy. And so that's pretty much going to be a for sure deal, it looks like. We have to kind of finalize the dates and that type of thing. It will be Mitchell Prescott that will be coming to do it. Doesn't look like AJ would be doing it out here. So it looks like Mitchell's territory is this area. He's from Minnesota, that kind of thing. I might try to twist their arm a little bit, though, on that still. It would be kind of fun to have him here. So that's looking like it's going to be June 9th. That's kind of where we're looking right now. That may change, but we're kind of looking at that. The other thing that might fall into place with that is we're also contacted by Jesse Frost and Brandon Kruger, 2 local kind of hot rod heroes around here, and they've been putting on Moto Schools, I think, the last 2 years. And Jesse's actually got a full training facility, gym, and all that kind of thing down in Sioux Falls now. So that's kind of a cool deal. But
Thanks.
they'd been talking to us about it, and they were thinking the 11th. Let me look at this. It was the 6th, 7th, and 8th. So it'd be the 3 days before that Saturday that the Moto Academy is coming. So if somebody wanted to get a lot of training in some different type of training, they could really get a lot done there, get a whole lot of new knowledge, I guess you could say.
Now, so is it a 3-day class, or is it 3 individual classes?
It's a 3-day class for Jesse and Brandon. So gotcha. The first day, I guess they kind of like to start off just a little bit with a free ride, and that way they kind of have a chance to evaluate, everybody, all the students, and then decide how they're going to break them up. They like to keep smaller classes, so they like to be 30 or less. So they don't like to have any more than maybe 5 or 10 the most students per instructor. So 5's kind of sounded like the number that they're looking at. So you're getting a lot of pretty personalized training there. And then the second day would be basically be broken into groups. And one of the things I did like about them, I was kind of asking, so do we need to have a race day prep every day? And they said, no, we'd rather not do that. We'd rather work on sections of the track. And they know our track pretty well. And they said, your track's really big, so there's so many different variations in your track. We'd rather work on individual things at your track, might be jumps or flat corners or bermed corners or braking bumps, whatever, that kind of thing. So we would just kind of basically prep a section, and they would work a section, the next day, and then that final day, then it would just be a more training, and then just a ride, an open ride at the end. And they'd take video of the first day and the final day of each person, and then try to give them something to go home with on where they were, where they're where they're at, and where they'd like to see them go, kind of thing. So,
is Moto Academy kind of the same thing?
Moto Academy, theirs to me seems like it's going to be more broad, maybe a little less personalized. I think that they may have a few more people at theirs. I'm not sure, but that's kind of the way it sounded to me. They're going to send me all the details, and I haven't gotten it yet. So, but it sounds like theirs would be a little bit more broad, maybe a little bit more for everybody type of a thing. A general, here's motocross theory. It sounds like there's a fair amount of theory that they like to, talk to people about, just for mental training and some of those types of things.
Gotcha.
I actually talked to a lady named Hannah Hardison, sorry. And she kind of went through it, and she was going to send me a bunch of information, and then have Mitchell contact me tomorrow or maybe Monday, and then kind of go over things, and then I'd have a little bit more insight as to what they're going to do, type of thing.
Very cool.
And then the last one, Tom Glanzer from MX at the Decks contacted me, and I guess his kids, I guess some of our kids have actually gone to this thing that they're talking about. It's called FCA MX. It's fcamx.org if anybody wants to go to the website and check it out. But it's what was that, Federation of Christian Athletes? Is that right?
It's the yes, I believe that's what it is.
And so what they're doing there is kind of a interesting concept. Is every year they have one of these athletic camps at Black Hills State, and it has all the stick and ball sports. And I'm not exactly sure just what all is involved there, but they're also now going to include motocross, which is something that I think is pretty cool. And
that is cool.
Yeah, it's one of those things that we kind of talked about it earlier, where, and maybe you guys want to jump in on this, but it used to be, I think when we were all riding motocross, athletes still rode motocross, and there wasn't that big. I mean, there were some people that only rode motocross, and maybe some people that only did sports, but I think you had a lot of athletes that also rode motocross or rode dirt bikes. And I think over the period of years, the coaches just didn't want to see the kids riding dirt bikes and getting hurt, because they wanted them to specialize in football or whatever it was. And then I think we also had the thing where you had the parents that tried to get their kids into sports, and maybe they had a bad experience, and first thing you know, that kid's not involved in any sports, and he can motocross. It's we'll get little Jimmy into motocross. And it's kind of one of those things that I hate to see, because both things have a lot to be gained for, just building character and integrity. And I think that's one of the things we've always talked about. That's something that we really like to see in motocross. And honestly, without it, the sport dies. You have to have a soul to the sport, and you can't be breeding narcissists. We have to have people that are true, honest people that are going to be part of the sport. We want them cradle to the grave. We don't want to hear that thing where, I was really fast when I was young, but I'm tired of crashing. I'm not going to be riding anymore. I put that away. It's like, well, first off, you got the wrong attitude. Anyway, jump in there, guys. What do you guys have? What are your thoughts?
Like there used to be a lot, like wrestling used to be the thing. It seemed like when I was in high school, a lot of us were wrestling in moto, and because they too really accent, help, they had a lot of the same stuff, just the strength and conditioning. But, and I've always thought, I mean, all the team sports I see a lot of advantage. And, being a teacher, I work with kids, and I see the advantage of the students that that are involved with sports, just the maturity that they get. But I definitely always liked wrestling, because when you lose at wrestling, there's nobody to blame, and I think it's such a great experience for people to have. But moto is, I think like you say, I think we could do better. And moto can really build character. But I think we need to be cognizant of that as we're training youngsters or whatever. But.
Yeah, I think I grew up playing baseball was my main sport, but half the kids I rode with were on my baseball team. So that's why, they're the ones that got me. But we mainly, did a lot of trail riding. We didn't do moto, but that was a big part of it. We'd be at baseball talking about dirt bikes.
Right.
And the one thing I do like about motocross and other individual sports is there's no hiding, and if you're good, it's obvious. If you're bad, that's obvious too.
Right.
And, I've played football and baseball. I've been on teams where I was the best player, but I was sitting the bench. Or maybe I wasn't the best player and I was a starter. So there seemed like there was no rhyme or reason. But with the individual sports, man, like I said, there's no hiding. You either coming first or you coming last,
That one's really it. And I think that's kind of where I was going with that. If you're riding motocross, it's all on you. Kind of like you said, you can't make really an excuse. Either you showed up that day and you had your game face on, or you didn't, and there may be some mechanical issues, and you learn to take that on yourself and take that responsibility. And where a lot of stick and ball sports, people are able to hide within the team kind of a thing. And then I think the flip side of that is the team sports actually builds that thing of actually having a team, and while motocross is a one-on-one sport, essentially, there is still some teamwork in there in terms of continuing the sport, developing the sport, having it move on to the next level, and then us being able to move on to the next level, and then being able to give the things that we've learned to that next group of people, and just so the progression continues. And so I think that's kind of where I was going. There's both things there that are kind of iron sharpens iron kind of thing, both for the team thing and for the single sport kind of thing. So
being the Christian athletes, I mean, they obviously have a Christian agenda, and I think it's super applicable in team sports and individual sports, and it's a great venue for them to discuss that and really help young people to find answers, I guess, right?
Right.
Yes.
Well,
The thing I really liked about motocross is kind of getting back to what we were talking about earlier. Playing on team sports and stuff, that was so competitive, and there was so many, parents involved, and they were competitive because they wanted their kid to be the, next Tom Brady and stuff. So, but with motocross, man, this is the only sport I've ever done where I remember I was getting ready to race, and we had our sight lap, and I went out for my sight lap, and I got a flat tire. And I swear that I must have had 5 people in the pits help me change that tire, because my group was going up like one of the first groups. And I had half the pits over there with, offering me tools and help, and, running and grabbing me a tube or whatever it was.
So awesome.
And that's what I like about motocross. And that's what I don't want motocross to lose is,
Right.
I mean, how many times you've been at the track and you see a single mom pull up with their kid, and all these guys run over to help them unload the bike,
Right.
or you have a little mini kid that wrecks on the backside of the track, and another dad's standing there. He helps the kid get up, get his bike started, and get going again.
Right.
What other sport is like that?
Right. It's pretty cool. Or, I always go back to the time when I got a flat tire. So I come back pushing it down right on the very start. I'm coming down, and Chad's up in the tower, and he's like, go get my bike. And it was just parked right there on the side of on the fence. And it's like, really? He's like, get it. So I jumped
Oh,
on.
that's cool.
I went from a 450 to a 250 was like, wow. Felt like I was just ringing that thing out. It was like, how do you guys get around the traffic? But it was
cool.
it's pretty cool. So thanks, Chad, by the way. Thanks again.
That's pretty special.
That's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. Yeah, and I guess the last thing that's kind of cool about that whole thing is I guess every night then they go back and they take videos of what they did during the day. And I guess that they've done this at one other place in Minnesota, and you have all the kids that are stick and ball kids that have been around that, never really been exposed to motocross. And then they show the motocross kids what they're doing, and then everybody's just like, I guess they're just the rock stars. Yeah, so it's kind of a cool thing, and a whole new introduction to a whole new group of people to get into the sport that actually probably could be pretty good at it. Just fitness and athleticism and different things like that. Anything else on that?
Sounds awesome.
All right.
Yeah.
When might that be? Did we have a date?
So the date on those, we're looking at the June 17th, 18th, 19th, and 20th. So all the schools would be fairly close together there. And I think that'd work good for us. And that still gives us plenty of time to work on our infrastructure. And, that was kind of our decision this year to have all of our races early. So we would have the District 30, which we're going to talk about here in a minute, in April, the Loretta Lynn's qualifier in May. And then we were taking off the rest of the summer until the state championship at the Sturgis Rally, and just working on infrastructure, widening the track, mulching it out more, putting a lot more sand, biomaterial in it, working on some of the features, tunnels, the new start, and hopefully the new finish. That's still one of those things we're not positive on, but it would be nice to get that all done so that we'd have the start and finish over there, and the finish being on the ski jump. So we do have the tunnels for the ski jump to lengthen it. Then it'd just be a matter of building the building and getting the power and those types of things up there to it. Fences, just one thing after another, all those kinds of things. So that'd been kind of our plan. And I don't think that's kind of the nice thing about these schools is it wouldn't really mess with our infrastructure work, because while we'd be doing the prep, it's still early enough. We still should have plenty of natural moisture. Wouldn't have to be, putting that much time into, we're not going to be spending the whole week like we do at, say, the August race trying to get it wet, type of thing. And so I think it could work out pretty good. And I guess I'm kind of curious just to see what's new, things that I don't know about, and what that kind of stuff. So
now, do you have a cost on the schools yet, or not?
We don't. We have some roundabout ideas. So the numbers that I've heard, now I haven't heard from Moto Academy. They did throw some numbers. I'm not going to say anything there just until I actually see it. I was quite surprised. It's pretty reasonable in comparison to some of the other stuff we talked about or that we're going to talk about. The FCA camp, I'll start with that one because Tom pretty much thought he would be around $600 for those 4 days. And that would be with the room and board and things like that. That's kind of where he was talking. So that one, that whatever that breaks down to, 100 and something a day. I'm not sure what that breaks down to, but that's kind of where he thought they would be. He thought there might be it might be a little less than that, but that's kind of what he was thinking about for those 4 days. So it's pretty intensive, it sounds like, and that kind of thing. Brandon and Jesse, theirs is still a little bit up in the air, but they're thinking, it sounds like theirs is going to be like a $300 to $400, very immersive, very specific to you type of a thing, so that you're going to get, something that is really directed at, here's what you do, here's and they're going to talk about conditioning and a bunch of different things depending on the person, that kind of thing. So theirs is, I kind of like that one. Theirs comes down to writing, the right mindset, conditioning, and also theory. So that's kind of where they're at. The Moto Academy for the one day is, I think, somewhere in that neighborhood again, something like that. So might be a little bit less, but it all depended on what we wanted, what the insurance was going to cost, the water, and how many coaches they were going to need to get for the people that they were going to have. So, and they're all professional riders now. Yeah, I'm going to stop there till we have more information. There's some other really cool stuff to go along with that, and names and certain people that were brought up that supposedly will be coming to actually all three of them. So big names to all three of them. So, but I'm just going to leave it at that till we have it, confirmed, kind of thing. So, guess moving on, let's talk about the District 30. So we have the District 30 coming up in April. It'll be 11th will be the practice day. 12th and 13th will be race days. So we're going to start practice. I'm going to try to start at about 9 o'clock in the morning on Friday. And the reason that we're not having practice on Saturday anymore is we have 36 races that we have to do twice. So we've moved on to a two moto format for the District 30. Number one, just to kind of have a test run for Loretta Lynn's, and that's what we're going to be doing on this, is basically an exact mock-up of what we're going to do at the Loretta Lynn's qualifier, other than the starting gate. We're still going to use the old gate on this one, but everything else will be run just like a Loretta Lynn's qualifier. And so if you're out there and you've never raced our track or ridden on our track, this would be a great time to come and get a little bit more experience and get ready for the Loretta Lynn's qualifier. Plus, if you win, you'll be a District 30 champion, which is a pretty big deal. That means you're the champion in North Dakota and South Dakota. And once you've won it, no one can ever take it away from you. So it's kind of a cool thing. But so we'll go through on that practice day. We will have 2 rotations of 15 minutes apiece. And then we'll probably, I don't have the exact thing that we're going to do, but that's the way we're going to break it down, is 2 rotations. It'll go from 9 till 1:30. And that gives us enough time to then, prep the track for the next day, get ready for the race, and make sure that it's like just spectacular. We will have the race schedules out. So there will be 17 or 18 classes on Saturday. We've kind of been looking at different things. Those will be coming out on Monday or possibly Sunday night. What those classes will be for Saturday, and then what the classes will be on Sunday. So people, in most cases, people are going to be racing both days. But if you're just racing one of those classes, we will have those schedules out, and then also what the gate fees, all the different things will be for each day. But I think, Aaron, are you going to be able to make it to that one, or are you going to be there?
Yeah, so I'll definitely be there by Friday night. I might have to teach Friday, so.
Okay. Well, what I was thinking is we'll probably, we started talking about tech inspection, and we'll probably just run through that night since we're going to be running all the Loretta's classes. So if you have a stock bike, that'll probably be one of the first times that we go through and have really done tech inspection. And so if it works out Friday night, we will do it. If not, we will do that Saturday morning and then Saturday night. And I guess we can talk about that as we get into the next, as soon as we get past this section. You can kind of talk how you're going to handle some of those things or whatever. And then I guess just to jump into it real quick and finish this up, then the same thing on Sunday. What we'll be doing Friday, Saturday and Sunday is we will have a 2-lap practice for each class in the morning. And immediately after practice, we will go to start the race. And so there will be 17 motos twice for 2 motos. And all the classes have their They all have different times. Those are on the Loretta Lynn's website. We'll also be putting that out. But generally speaking, the 250As or the Pro Sport, 250 Pro Sport and 450 Pro Sport are 20-minute classes. So there'll be 2 of those a day. If you're doing a 2 moto, that'll be two 20 plus ones. And then the rest of them are typically 15 and 10 minutes. And then the kids classes, some of the little kids classes are smaller than that or shorter than that. And then the other thing, we'll all be racing on the big track, but depending on the class, we will modify the track. So for the little 50s, we're still going to be racing on the big track, but we'll just be modifying, shortening the track. That's how it happens at the regionals, and that's what happens at Loretta's. So basically, if you make it there, you have to be able to prove that you can ride on the big track. So that's kind of how that works.
So with the motos, Brett, are you going to race both your motos on the same day, or could you race one on Saturday and one on Sunday?
They still never sent us any of that information, but I've looked at everybody else's, and historically everybody's always raced 2 motos that day. It would be kind of cool if you could do one day and one the next day, but I just have not seen anybody do that. And so the answer is no at this point. So yeah, be 2 motos per day, just kind of like typical standard motocross.
Gotcha.
So so that's kind of pretty much it. And all that stuff, all the information will be out on everything Sunday night or Monday morning. So
with those motos, if we have some of the classes that are not full, can they be combined?
They can.
Okay.
They can. And I'm glad you brought that up, because that's something I do need to put out there is classes can be combined, or if there's not enough, we actually would just delete that class. So if we didn't have anybody in it, we just won't have that class, kind of a thing. If you do show up and you're the only one, we may delete that class, but you'll still win. So you qualify. Let's put it that way. If there was just one person, kind of by default. Now that's moving forward to the Loretta Lynn's. The one thing that I do want to put out there, though, that's kind of important, I'm glad you kind of got me thinking about this, Aaron, is if you come to the Loretta Lynn's, but you're not trying to qualify, you don't have to pay the $25 Loretta's fee. So you could still race the Loretta's. It's going to be part of our series anyway. So we'll have the District 30, the Loretta's, and then the South Dakota State Championship. And that's going to make up our outdoor motocross season this year for our series. And so even if you're not going to Loretta's, it still behooves you to come and race your class at Loretta's, and you just won't be scored to go to Loretta's. So let's say that you won, say you're racing schoolboy. Let's say that you won that schoolboy at the District 30, you won it at the Loretta's qualifier, and you won it at the state championship. You still don't have to you still don't have to pay the $25 to do the Loretta's. And what would happen is whoever came in second, if they were trying to qualify to go to Loretta's, would ultimately get the first place going on to Loretta's. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely.
So
are the classes for Loretta's, is it kind of the same as what we usually do?
Very similar, like pretty much all the classes are the same that we have been doing, but we've run mod classes, and now we'll be introducing stock classes, or limited classes is what they call it. So other than that, it's going to be the same thing that we have been running, and we're just going to add another 50% kind of a thing.
Nice.
Yeah.
It's exciting. Can't wait.
It's gonna be a lot of fun. I was thinking maybe we could talk about some of the things that happen at those races. I mean, for me, one of the big things that I'm always considering is the track prep, because that's part of one of the main things that I do there. So the things that we're going to be working on this year that's different is we'll probably have a lot more biomaterial in the track than we've had. That's kind of the next thing in our process. We've kind of started to get the surface that we wanted on there. And now it's time to start putting the money in the bank, so to speak. So we'll be putting a lot of biomass. We've got a lot of sawdust and some chips coming, a bunch of hay, and we're working on getting some manure. So if we can get all that together, we'll kind of get back to the track that we used to have that was just never stuck together, fluffed, and every lap was a little bit different just because it was
Nice.
so loamy. The water system, we've got a good share of that in. Most all of it's in. We'll be working on getting the sprinkler system set up permanent so that every night we can turn it on about 2 in the morning and run for about 4 hours during the evening every night, so that we're getting that money in the bank and getting the moisture in the ground, that kind of a thing. So that'll be a big part of our track prep. We'll still, on the District 30, I think we're going to still run the half pipe area out there. We're going to be having to get rid of that for the Lorettas just to have enough parking and as we change the start and the track. So, that will still have to be watered by truck, and some of the tree sections will be watered by truck. Most of that has water system in it now. There's just one section that doesn't. And then when we get to the Lorettas, we have a big change because of the new start for that tree section. So a lot of that will make it a lot more accessible for the crowd to get in and watch what happens at the hole shot, and then also seeing that back section of the track that, we all know what happens back there, and it's like pretty amazing, but I think a lot of the people don't get that experience because they have no idea that people are jumping 150 feet. It's like,
Yeah.
no, it can't be that long. It's like, yeah, it is. So, yeah, that's, I guess, and I guess one of the other things I'm going to be working on is we'll probably be doing the tillage a little bit different. This first race, we've got a lot of frosts in the ground. It's broken up, just pulverized, so it's going to be great. But we're probably going to be doing a little bit more with the chisel plow and a spade than we've done in the past, because the dirt's getting to where we can do that and it fractures it better, and you have a little less clumping than you do with the disc. So, and then we're going to be modifying the disc a little bit, and then building a new large rototiller. So anyway, that's kind of the things that I'm looking at.
So on the so like the two back straights there, like after you come off the hill, are we looking at any kind of rollers or sand in those? Or
I don't know if we'll get them in before the District 30 or not, just with everything we've got to do, but for sure by Loretta's.
But that is kind of still the plan then, though.
Yeah, I'd sure like it. I mean, I think that would add so much to the track in terms of just something that we don't have that we kind of need.
Yeah, it's a great spot for it. It's perfect.
Right. And it'd slow it down back there.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Just because just the sheer nature of it would kind of slow it down in that area, and just be one more of those safety thoughts that we have towards making it that much more safer.
Yeah, right on.
So how about you, Aaron? You got anything to talk about on the tech inspection at all?
Yeah,
or?
so with the tech inspection, I'm just starting looking at that stuff, and and I might even try and pull some people in that just to kind of make sure we have plenty of eyes. But we're really looking for stock parts. There's two sets of classes, and the one set, the limited, the bike has to be stock with very few exceptions. So that's mostly what we're looking for. And then on the modified classes, there's really not so much to look for. But yeah, and actually even for the District 30, I'll probably be able to get out there late afternoon, early evening. So that'll be a great time to sort of run through that and sort of understand what's going on, or get some experience with it before we do get into Loretta's. So we'll hopefully get through all the bikes Friday night, and then when we get down to the starting gate for each of the motos, we'll have a sticker there, but we'll also have records of each bike with the serial number, so we can kind of check them. So, me and Chopper and anybody else who's interested can make sure that it's fair, and we don't expect anything but fair treatment or fair riders, but, we're going to make sure that everybody feels good at the end of the day, that nobody, they didn't get cheated.
Right.
Is there something else on that I was thinking, but yeah, so that should be I'm actually looking forward to it. Oh, I was also thinking about going to the Little Falls qualifier up here, because that comes up a week or two before the D30 qualifier, and that would, that'd be a chance for me to kind of meet some of these other guys that are doing this and go through the process over there. So
Sure.
It's probably the next closest qualifier, and it's in a different region too, so it'll be different riders and whatnot. But I think that'd be kind of fun, because I do think we hold a high standard at the Gypsy, so I want to make sure we do it right, even though it's our first time through. I think by the time we get to our qualifier, we'll be ready.
Right. Excellent. Sounds awesome. How about you, Chip? You got anything? Maybe you could help out on that. You probably will be helping out on that maybe a little bit, huh?
Like I said, whatever you guys need, man, I'm there. But yeah, it sounds like the more the better. So so there won't be a big, log jam there. So we can get people in and out and get their bikes inspected and, make things a little more automated, I guess.
That is one of the things that Brachel's going to be working on, is having stations. So that'll also be part of that information thing coming out Monday or Saturday, Sunday or Monday. There will be stations as you come through for sign up. So it'll make it a lot easier for, people, like I said, the log jam thing. So you come to this station for the waivers, come to this station for the Loretta's sign up, come to this station for sign up for the race, and whatever else. She's got all those figured out. So I think that's going to be, and then on to inspection, that kind of thing. So
that'd be good.
Be inspected. So you already know, hey, you need to be inspected, go get this done, and then come back, make sure you're checked off the list.
Now tell me this, if somebody fails inspection, say it's something as minor as, like you were talking about, bark busters, can they run back and take them off and then come back and get re-inspected, or is it a one-time shot?
Yep, they can, if they show up there and it's something that can get done while Aaron's doing inspection. So in other words, we're not going to have Aaron's wait till 3:00 in the morning to come check their bike for them. It's something that they can either get done, say that Friday night or that Saturday morning, whenever he's going to be open, or else Saturday night or Sunday morning kind of a thing, then yes. If it's something that can be fixed, like say they show up with a pipe on the bike, right, and they're going to run a limited class, Aaron will probably say, okay, that's not stock, so we that's not going to pass inspection. They would have time to run back to the trailer, pull the silencer and pipe off, put the stock one on, and come in and race. Or
now, how does that work with some of the factory edition bikes? Like I know Kawasaki's got theirs and Honda's got theirs and stuff, and it comes with a full Yoshimura.
That's stock.
That's considered stock.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
So just buy one of those.
There you go.
Shell out $14,000 for one of those.
Like Aaron's already got one. That's He's already set up.
Really?
Yeah.
Well worth it. I friggin' love that bike.
Thing's awesome. I love that bike too. So then you're going to be probably helping with some head officiating and lap counting and finish line flagging.
That sounds great.
You're good to go.
I'm ready to roll.
Any insights or thoughts on that, or just excited to go?
Well, we just have to make sure that we have the infrastructure in place with everybody on radios, so we can all communicate, know, who's in first, who's in last, who's the last bike to come across, when we should throw the white flag, the checkered flag. Right. But it's going to be good. We've had it pretty good so far.
Right. Yeah. So, well, moving on, I guess we're kind of going to the part that I'm kind of excited about. We've been discussing this, and we all like mod and stuff. So, one of the things that Aaron was suggesting as we kind of talk about some of the different mods. And since you brought it up, Aaron, where do you want to start with this?
So specifically the things that I've been thinking about is the transmission modifications and tumbling, because like that, I know you've been doing that for a long time, Brett. You've done it to a number of bikes, and I got that Roxon edition right now, right. And like every mod on it is exactly kind of the way I would do it, but I've never done the transmission. And to be honest, as much as I love Hondas, that has always been one of the weak points. Is they can be a little notchy, I've missed a few memorable shifts that I'll remember for the rest of my life. And so I'm like, yeah, it might be time to go down that path. And I know you have a lot of experience with it. And I was just curious, like, what all do they do and what do you expect out of that mod?
Well, there's a lot of different things you can do. For me, I've kind of gotten to where, after having done it a lot, just go the full way. That's what, if you can afford it, or if it's something that you want to do, you'll never be sorry. So the first thing that I think is important is polishing. So either tumbling or polishing the gears, that just seems to make them, it's just that much more like butter. It just, it's just that much more smooth. And then now we've started to coat them. There's several different coating companies out there, but the DCI coating is the one that like most of the NASCAR teams use and that type of thing. And one of the cool things is there's a video on YouTube somewhere that when I was first starting to think about this guy walks up to me, he's got a shaft and he's got a stock gear on it. And then he has another shaft that's right next to it, and he has a coated gear on it. And he spins the coated gear, and it just keeps spinning. And then he talks for a little bit, and then he goes over and he spins the stock gear on the uncoated shaft and the uncoated gear. And he keeps going. And this is about a 2.5 minute video. Within 25 seconds, that one that got started later stops spinning. And he continues to talk about the technology and that type of thing. And every once in a while, they'll pan over at this gear that's coated, and it just keeps spinning. It doesn't slow down. And then once the video is all done, that's kind of how they finish. They look over, and then they watch the gear keep spinning, and then that just fades to black. And the guy that does my mod stuff, EVO Industries, when I was talking to him, he pretty much told me, like, hey, Brett, listen, we've done everything else to your bike, but we might as well go ahead and do the transmission. What do you think? And I was like, well, yeah, let's do it. We'll do the coating. And he goes, literally, we've been doing that with all our Loretta's bikes. And once you've done it, you're going to always want to do it. Makes it just so smooth. And so we did that, and it definitely is something that you can notice over just polishing. It just makes the shifts are just, you just barely touch it, and you get to where, when we're racing, we don't use the clutch anymore anyway. And that was one of his big things to me, is like, the one time my transmission did go bad. You remember that?
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. And it was one of his big questions to me, was like, well, do you use the clutch? And I thought it was a trick question. I was like, well, I use the clutch just about like everybody else. I said, I come through the corner, I'm going to use the clutch. And when I shift, I was kind of like, well, all right, what's he asking me here? I use the clutch. He goes, well, I'd like to see you not use the clutch. He's like, that's what I like all my race bikes not to be used. And I was like, that's a different thing than we hear from a lot of engine builders. And, that was one of his big things, is like, listen, when we coat this thing, it's just going to be meshing so smoothly that it's just better if you don't get to you, which I hadn't been anyway, but that was kind of that trick question. That's what he was kind of getting at, is these transmissions hold up a lot better when you do that. And so I'll leave that part there. And then the last thing on the transmission thing that I really like is to get that detent arm. So the detent arm always is kind of a problem in most bikes, where you get kind of a weird false neutral. They can get bent or that little pressed on piece of metal. Just it's kind of weird. It's just pressed on. Well, when you get a corrective angle detent arm, it's a little bit more rounded, and when it snaps into the shift drum, it just, I mean, it hits super hard. So your shifts are just super solid, and then they typically put like a ceramic bearing on them. So it's no longer just a metal pressed plate, it's a bearing that slides in, so it slides in real smooth and then locks in as well. So
is that a machine component? They replaced that arm?
yes, they replaced the arm. And the one that I've been using is Pro. I'm going to have to look that up here real quick. I'll tell you in just a minute. I can't remember the name of the company else. It slipped my mind.
Well, you know, it's funny, like just as you're going through that, and I've thought about this stuff before, like the DLC coating, the ceramics, nitrogen implantation, that is like bread and butter for high volume manufacturing, you know. And so there's a lot of stuff that I wouldn't even consider building that I didn't use the diamond coating. And I don't know what those coatings are always a little top secret, but they're generally low friction, high hardness. And in, you know, for, you know, in my world, like that was really valuable, for high volume manufacturing, because you had less wear, but even more importantly, you have less buildup of material. And part of that is you don't get that transfer of material if you have, you know, what those gears are hardened, so they're probably relatively close to tool steel. So you have tool steel gears run against tool steel gears on tool steel shafts, whether it's whatever, A2, S7. There's a similarity where they'll deposit things. And that was always a huge advantage in manufacturing. It's like, if we can get a coating on there of diamond, or sometimes you have the ceramic coatings, that stuff won't stick to it. And so you get out of the gate with lower friction. So to me, it's like, it's kind of, more I think about, it's like, it's crazy that I haven't done this before. But also with the machine components, I'm thinking, when you started mentioning not using the clutch, and I'm kind of a clutch abuser, but I never, back in the two-stroke days, I never used the clutch to shift, ever. But I think part of it is, you probably remember pulling those trances apart, like everything was machined. Like there was no stamped parts. So I think they were probably a little higher quality, so you could do that. You know, you might use the clutch to start, and you might use it to build momentum for a lip or something, but you didn't need it just to shift. You just bang it through. But now we do. So it really makes a lot of sense.
So, Brett, are they telling you then not to use your clutch on the corners and stuff?
You know, it's not that so much, because that's going to be like a corner specific type of a thing.
Right.
Basically for the shifting, that was basically what he was getting at.
Okay.
Is just basically you've got that transmission always all working together, and why would you slack it up?
Right.
You know, it's already set to be, you know, just flow right into that next gear. And, you know, arguably they do pretty well, but a lot of times you'll get that thing where once the chain starts getting wore a little bit, or gets some slack in it, and you're pulling hard. And where I've found it, I don't know if this happens to everybody else, but in my career over the years, I've found it a lot, say going from fourth to fifth, when you're pinned and you're trying to get it to go to that next gear, and it's like you just can't get it to go up to that next gear, because it kind of like it just doesn't want to. All that kind of thing goes away. It goes to where now it's just like the slightest little click pops it into the next gear. So it's almost like on a hole shot too, you can take up and just take off, and you're just literally holding up on the shifter, and it's just like almost like an auto shift type of a feel.
Wow.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
Pretty awesome.
Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense too, because I'm thinking about, you know, back when those low production bikes in the mid 80s or whatever, like you kind of had to break in the transmission, but once they broke in,
right,
they worked great. But it was always, you know, your second to third shifts and then third to fourth were going to be easier because you're using them more.
right.
And it just took longer to break in 4 to 5.
Right.
But if you can cut to the chase and have them tumble, you don't need to break it.
So much better. You're ultimately true. Ultimately, you're safer. Let's just put it that way. I mean, you're safer, and then you also perfect your skills because it's the same every time. So those muscle memory skills and that subconscious thing really builds because it's going to be the same, and your body gets used to that because this is going to happen, and consequently, you know, our level of riding just gets that much higher. So it's one of those things to get yourself to the next level.
Right.
So yeah. So my suggestion is absolutely, Aaron, you won't regret it, especially not on that bike.
Yeah, I'm not going to get rid of it anytime soon, especially since it looks like the 25 isn't as good as the old frame. So I need to keep this one.
Right. Yeah. Well, your bike's the only bike I think I've ever got on and I felt like it was my bike. And I remember going across the big jump across the top of the hill, first lap, and landing 15 feet down the backside and thinking, wow, this is Aaron's bike. Yeah. I shouldn't feel this at home on it, but yeah, it's just a fun bike.
Works good.
You know, so you were kind of talking about that. What do you think about clutches? And I know you have quite a bit of experience with clutches. So what are your opinions there?
So it's kind of funny because I was a flag waving torque drive fan until it failed. But I think I know why it failed. And I've been wanting to go back to one just because I like the light pull. I just like everything about it. And I think you and I were running them at about the same time, and I had an issue with my clutch, and then you had a transmission something, and right. I don't know what happened, but we kind of thought it was all the clutch, but it wasn't. So I recently reached out to Recluse, and because one of the things I was doing at that time is I was running a steel hub with the shims, and they didn't say I couldn't do that. And I remember talking to them at the time, but you can't run the hub you can't run that clutch without the shims. So what happened to mine was the shims, the clutch kind of beat through the shims and busted them into little pieces that went down into it turns out it wasn't the end of the world because the shim pieces are softer than the gears. So I just had to clean it out, but it scared me.
Right.
But I think the problem was when you had the steel plates hammering on the shims against the steel hub, it just beat through those shims. Whereas if it was an aluminum hub, which you'd normally have, then I think it wouldn't have damaged those shims. So I'm kind of back on trying it. But and how long you been running the torque drive?
Well, on this one, I bet you I have, but it's 40 hours, and it doesn't feel any different. I don't see anything in the oil. And it is definitely the cleanest clutch feel you'll ever feel. Those 13 plates are just like, but if anything, you can feel the clutch. You can feel it through your finger. It feels like a knife. I was liken it to like a knife carving on carving wood. You can feel it grabbing. You can feel it right through the cable, right into your finger. There's that much feedback. And then versus the Henson, which I have on the other bike, I have the full Henson on the black bike, or what used to be the Black Widow bike, and then the torque drive on my full race bike. And they both have their advantages. Like the torque drive, if you were ever going to ride that bike in the woods, it just won't work, because it's like it needs to be revved up, and it needs to be, like that's the only way feather in the clutch ever works on those. So it's meant to be racing. You're not going to just go out and joyride with that torque drive. It's just not good for that. Where the Henson with 9 plates in those, I think, it seems to be a lot more forgiving. It still hooks up really good. And so, in my opinion, it would be like this. If you have a stock clutch set up and then you put in a good Henson clutch pack, that's way better than stock. And then and that might be for a lot of people. And then the Henson clutch pack, I think, is probably more for everybody that wants to upgrade because it's just so proven. It works forever. You don't have any problems. It's so smooth. But if you have a built up motor, I have had times where I can tell it's actually still not getting 100% down. Where the torque drive, you're going to get, well, I don't know, 100%, but you're going to get everything that you want down to the ground.
Yeah, I guess that was when I did have the torque drive, and I had it on a 250, so clutch pull wasn't a big deal, but I thought the clutch pull was better. And then, like you say, there was never any slippage. That was part of the reason, like, I liked it on the 250, but I think it's even a bigger deal on a 450 because the clutch pull's hard. Right. And you're more likely to slip or sort of just heat the clutch up. And I didn't notice a lot of fade on my torque drive from what I remember.
I haven't had, and we run long motos.
Right. Yeah.
And I've never noticed it.
And I'm running a full Henson right now, and I like it, except the clutch pull is still high, and that's the biggest thing. And actually, I do notice on, like, this is a little bit of a miracle for you guys who know me, but I rode 420s Sunday, and that was, the clutch was not taking it very well. And it was kind of a track where I was abusing a little bit, like too many tight corners for a 450, but okay. And that's got me thinking about it even more. But I do agree with you that the Henson is like those are the only two to me that are better than stock.
Right.
And there's last week I rode with a guy with a 10 450 Yamaha. So that was, or no, a 9. So okay. Those were a very powerful bike. And he had a brand new clutch in there. and he's like, yeah, something's wrong. And I went and rode it. It's like, yeah, it's slipping. Like, right. It's slipping bad. Right. Like, what did you put in there? And it was, I'm not even going to say, but it was one of the aftermarket clutches. And I'm like, yeah, you can't do that with a bike like this. Like, right. You got to put a Yamaha in, or a Henson, or a Recluse. Like, and I don't know, tell me if I'm wrong, but I think the first, like, I used to run a lot of Barnett's and stuff, but then with the first bike that I had that I couldn't was that 02 CR250, where it would just destroy any aftermarket clutch. And so I had to run Hondas. Right. And I think nowadays, all these 450s, the aftermarket clutches just won't tolerate them. But
I agree. Especially if you've done anything to it. It's just, well, it's kind of like that bike of Seth's. He'd had it all hopped up, and I would ride that. And one time I'd get the whole shot just huge. And then the next time I wouldn't. I started looking at it, and it was really loamy. I mean, the bike was revving there, but ultimately it just wasn't putting the power down, and it was just robbing that. The motor was spinning the clutch, and that was a brand new clutch, new plates, everything, but it just didn't have the power to hold and make the back tire turn. So, yeah, once you get to a 450, I mean, it's something you really got to consider, I think.
It was that on your yellow bike right now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that way the stock Suzuki clutch wouldn't take it?
It wouldn't. Nope. Because that bike, you'd have, like, if it was, there are certain spots where it would just shine. You'd be like, man, this thing's awesome. And then you get where you're pulling next to somebody, and it's like, for being built like this, why am I not pulling away faster, or why are they pulling on me?
Right.
And I could never quite figure that out. And then all of a sudden it finally dawned on me. I don't know why it took so long. It's like, wait a minute, this clutch just won't take the power. Just won't put it down.
Yeah. Well, and to be fair, like, I've never ridden a 450 that pulls as hard as that bike. Yeah, right. I mean, that thing, it really pulls. So I'm not too surprised. But the torque drive fixed that, huh?
Totally fixed that. Now it's like, I used to always totally question the thing when people would say, nobody can ever use all the power that a 450 puts out. And I'd be like, well, I understand that in the right tracks, but on a big, long track like ours, there's a lot of times when I'm thinking, I want more power.
Yeah.
And now now that's kind of changed. Now it's like, well, of course you always want more power, but
Yeah.
it's not. I don't ever have that thought of, God, why won't it go faster now? So
Yeah. I see what you're saying. Yeah, because now you're getting all that you have.
right.
Yeah.
Right.
No, there's no question. For people that haven't ridden the Gypsy track, it uses horsepower.
Right.
It's big.
It's
And
big.
it's big and steep and loamy, and it's everything that you need everything you need horsepower for.
Right. Right.
So
What outdoor is supposed to be, right?
exactly. Perfect.
Well, and I guess the next thing we ought to talk about, as long as we're talking about mods, is how about suspensions? I mean, I know you just got a new suspension, so Chip. So what did you notice difference? And
Well, my bike, I'm 150 pounds, and from when I had Evo do my suspension, they said the new 250s are sprung for like 185 plus. So it was really stiff. I tend to run a little stiff suspension anyway. I don't know why, but it when I got my suspension back, it sure took a lot. I mean, because there was times with the stock suspension where I'd hit braking bumps towards the end of a moto, my hand had come off the off the throttle or off the other grip, and I don't have that problem now. Evo did a great job, and I'll be honest with you, I haven't played around with it like I should. I would like to. This season I want to see if I can soften it up even more, and but it definitely makes a huge difference for a guy at my level. I'm out of the three of us, I'm the slow guy, but my bike's stock except for the suspension, but it works really well. Evo did a great job.
Well, and I think there's something also to the track, like you're riding the Gypsy track a lot, and to me, when I moved from eastern South Dakota to western South Dakota, it took me a little bit to figure it out, but I needed to soften my suspension up because specifically at the Gypsy track, because it's fast and it gets rough, and there's not one Supercross element on it, and it's tough. Like eastern South Dakota is changing, but it used to be that every track had Supercross elements, so you kind of needed that stiffness to manage those things, but definitely, like, I've gone softer. My bike is quite a bit softer than stock, and a lot of that is you and I weigh about the same, but it's also when you're riding Gypsy, you're going fast and it's rough, but I love that. Like, to me, that's what I want to ride. So.
and that, I think the other thing too with outdoor that you start learning about is like slowing it all down a little bit. You know what I'm saying? As far as the rebound kind of thing, getting that all slowed down, depending on the outdoor. On our track, definitely, that's, if anybody's out there hasn't ridden our track, that's one of the tips of the day I'd tell you is, experiment with slowing down your suspension a little bit. And that's just because of the speed and because of the topography and that kind of thing, it really seems to cut down the lap times, and just you get that much less hit to your body. And that's what it's all about, is like, just making keeping your stamina and not taking the hits. So, but yeah, I know Jeremy. So we've been talking about EVO. It's Jeremy Creedy who's the guy, and anybody that, just going to put a plug in for Jeremy. If you're looking for somebody to do a suspension for you, Jeremy Creedy is the guy. And I've probably had, I suppose, 10 years now, or maybe even more than that. Actually, he did some suspensions for Seth. So I bet you we have 15 years anyway of experience with him, and he backs everything. You can call him. He will call you. He'll answer. He'll pick up the phone at night. It's something you're not going to get from most people. And he's a big deal. So it's not like you got just some little hometown deal going on. He's as professional as it gets. Have a lot of proprietary stuff that they've created is in-house type stuff. And a lot of their information all came from the pro circuit days. So we've been all involved with pro circuit for many years and then expanded into their own thing. So anyway, just Jeremy Creedy with EVO Industries. There's another tip for the day. But yeah, it's I think to me that if I was going to make a mod on a bike and it was the only mod I was going to do, it'd probably be the suspension.
Yeah.
What I would do.
And particularly the forks for me, because I ride real weight forward, but I agree, number one thing to work on. And you know, and I know like I've ridden your bikes over the years and they always work awesome. And I think it is worth taking the time to develop that relationship with your guy. Cause you know, I use Greg Hermanson and, you know, he's done so much stuff for me now that eventually you get it perfect. And it, you know, cause before that I'm going to try this place or that place, you know, I'd send it to PC or, Works Connection or FC. And it's like, maybe they would have got it eventually, but they sure didn't, you know, but and I don't know that you can even do that with those places. Like, with EVO, you just call them up and that's huge, you know.
Right.
So.
And then they keep records of you and all the things you do like, didn't like, where you've been, where you're going.
Yeah.
And that's the cool thing about Greg, though, too, is, you know, he's been raised around it his whole life. He rides it, and you can look at Greg's bikes when he's riding on like our track is a perfect example of what he can build. You'll watch him and you watch a lot of the other guys and like, he's just not taking the hits and he's smooth. You know, and he'll go back and then the next moto he comes out, he's even smoother, you know? And so that is a blessing having somebody like that right here close. So he's another one we probably better give a shout out to, wouldn't you say?
For sure. I'm super happy. And the thing about one of the things I got to comment on Greg is like I have those vintage bikes and it isn't like I take it to him and he'll say, well, this is what I would do. It's like what he'll take parts off of other bikes and build a shock or forks for me. And it's like, and I shouldn't say that because at the end of the day, I'm cheating, right? But I can't believe how good that stuff works. Like I have that 82 Honda and that thing, I can just fly around at my speed around our track. Our track is rough and it's at 82, you know, so that's a kind of a weird talent that Greg has too for taking that stuff that was junk when it was made and making something out of it that's pretty impressive. So
yeah, when you ride that thing around, it's kind of fun too. Just be on the side of the gate, you know, or the fence there, and have somebody come up and look and be like, "Man, that's an old Honda. Man, he's hauling on that thing." Like, yeah, it's an old Honda, but it's not an old Honda.
No, it's not. It works amazingly well.
Yeah,
and there's a lot of parts in there that Greg made. You know, he just machined them out because it's like, well, this isn't going to work. So
I know better. Huh?
Yeah. So but I agree with you 100%. Like I can work with the motor, but man, the forks have got to work, you know?
Right. And that's coming from a mechanical engineer that knows how to do suspension mods. I mean, you're pretty good at it yourself. So the fact that you're saying that says something.
Yeah. You gotta, I have my ideas, but man, there's an art to that stuff. So
that's definitely where it's at. Well, anything else we want to talk about in terms of mods, or we want to save it for some other shows, or what do you think? Any other thoughts?
No, we can save it.
Save it?
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll just to save it and think about other things that we have questions about, or that I have questions about, I guess. But.
Great. Well, I guess then we'll just kind of move on to any predictions for the upcoming race.
Well, see, this is going to be an East Coast race, right, for the 250s?
Yeah.
Man, I don't know. You know, Vial seems to be getting hot at the right time.
Yeah, and he's leading the points. So he's got something to prove.
Well, they were, I heard it and I can't quote it exactly, but I think his first race of the season, he was like a fifth, and then he went to a fourth, and then the last couple, I think he's been second or first, I guess he got in the last one. But I don't know, man. I think I mean, the guy's a world champion. He's a Supercross champion. I mean, the guy's incredible, but it just seems like we're losing a lot of guys to attrition now. So many people got hurt at Daytona. My goodness,
It's crazy.
that it's gonna be like who's still left standing at the end of the season.
Right.
Yeah, for sure. You hate to see that, and last year it seemed so good, but
But
still a rough sport.
It is. I was rooting for Eli before he got hurt, but I do a fantasy league with all my buddies out in California, and man, I love Chase Sexton, but he is killing me this year. He's killed my fantasy league. But so I'm hoping that he'll catch fire here, towards the end of the season. But I've been rooting for Roxon. I want to see, kind of the old guard still do good. Him and Anderson and Barsha. I love seeing those guys do good still.
Sure. So we got you for Tom in the 250s. You're thinking?
I mean, guys just so consistent, I mean, I'm probably gonna go with him, and then in my 450s, I'm gonna go with Sexton, man. I mean, he's definitely the fastest guy out there. He's just having some, I don't know, he's just having some issues upstairs that's killing him.
Good picks. How about you, Aaron?
Well, for the 450, I'm kind of thinking it's going to be. I kind of feel like Cooper Webb. He's not in management mode, but I think he's always just smart and he's in the lead. It's by quite a bit now. So if the win's there, he'll take it. But I think there's going to be other guys that have no reason not to hang it out. I think I would love to see Roxon win another one, or Anderson. But I do agree that money's kind of on Chase, but I'll probably pick Roxon, I guess, as fairly likely. But
Okay.
And 250s, yeah, I don't know. I mean, Ansie's looking. I agree. Tom's probably the class of the field right now, but I think part of the reason he wins championships is he doesn't take chances, and I think there's other people that are kind of forced into doing that. And Ansie doesn't really hang it out either, but I think he's getting to the point where he kind of has to. Like, he should be winning this thing. He's not falling apart like Sexton, but he has sort of created his own problems, so he might hang it out a little bit. And then of course, RJ's 50-50, right?
Right.
He might, it's hard to predict him right now, but I'd put odds on Ansie because I think he's got more to prove right now, so.
Good pick.
Yeah.
How about you, Brett?
I guess mine are probably just cut and dried, just for probably my main reasons, why I probably like Eli so much, just having been a higher level athlete in some other sports, team sports. I really like the serious guys. That's just something about my makeup. I like the guy that comes and shows up, puts on his game face, and maybe everybody else doesn't like him because he's maybe not a fan favorite because of his how he doesn't have that air about him as far as like a rock star, but they're a rock star because of who they are. And so consequently, I'm going to go with Tom for sure on the 250s. And I think, in my estimation, it's going to be Webb, because Webb's going to do what Webb does. He doesn't care if he wins, but he's going to be right there, second or third, hunting you until you make a mistake. And I just think that Roxon's at a place where, God, and I like Suzuki's, and I love to see Kenny doing well, but I don't think he has what Webb has. I just don't think that he does. And
I think talent wise he does.
Talent wise, he definitely does. He just doesn't have that killer instinct. And right now, I think we're at the point where the hunter, the killer, kind of sort of speak, the guy that's just going to come to work every day and he doesn't make mistakes, is the guy that's gonna finish the season. I think Webb. That's the thing about Webb is, he's had a career of proving that that's what he does, and and now he believes he can again. And that's the thing. If you think about Webb, he could win a championship, leave that year, come back the next year, and if he gets second or third, he hasn't decided, I deserve to be first. He almost has this insatiable need to prove himself or something. I don't know exactly how to put it, but I think he's gonna, he needs to win a few to believe he can again. And now he's done that. So I think he thinks he can. Plus, he's not going to go out and he's not going to crash. He's not going to make a mistake. And Sexton, while he's arguably the fastest, I'm not arguing with you there, but I just think Sexton this goes back to does he have a game face on? Sexton generally has a hard time keeping that game face on. I mean, he can show up, and be the big game player, because that's the thing that he does. He could be the big game player, but I just don't think that he can hold up to Webb being right on his butt. He might be fast enough that he could run away from Webb, but I think Webb's just going to be right there and keep showing him a wheel, letting him hear the motor, and then he's going to jump off the track and land on the tough blocks or something. Not that I want that, but that's just
Here's something for you. Now, this is kind of going to the motocross of nations. I wonder what the rules are, because Ken Roczen just became an American citizen. I wonder if it's your natural born country that you can compete for, or if it's where you're a citizen in.
I think the MX Nation rule is there's no rules.
Because we might have Ken Roczen on our team now.
Oh, that's pretty good. Yeah.
Well, I think it's such a great year because I really think what's happened is that we had, that we had these guys, like, I think, having Eli around for so long just got people used to the fact that he couldn't be beat, because he kind of couldn't be. And then I think Sexton and Jet kind of fell into those roles. But I do feel like, they're fast, but to me, they probably weren't as all-arounder as either one of them as what Eli is. Right. And Eli's kind of shown that, like with both of them, even under health, he will step up and win and beat those guys.
Right.
I don't know. Jet's pretty damn good. I mean, that guy is smooth. Talking about butter, man. That guy is butter. I think the new bike kind of held him back this year.
That could be. Honest with you. Well, I like to believe that because I have the old one. But but I think what's cool right now is, I think when Barsha goes to the line, he thinks he could win. I think Anderson, I think Roczen. I think there's 6 or 7 guys that think they could win. And not only are we getting this mix of winners, but we're getting better racing all over the place.
Oh, yeah. And look at all the champions we have on every gate.
Yeah.
When's it ever been like that?
Right.
I think this is the most.
Yeah.
I think this is the most.
That's what that would has to be.
It's been a good season.
Yeah.
Is they're all doing it in such different ways. And I'm with you on Webb. I'm stoked to see him doing so well and in his classic form with a few new tricks. Although when I watch those guys race, honestly, I can't think of anybody I'd rather not race than Cooper Webb.
No, Cooper Webb's that guy that's just going to be like, I'm coming after you.
Yeah. I don't know, Vince Friese, I would think
I'm coming after you.
I don't think I'd want to race Vince Friese.
No, probably you're right there.
Yeah. just tell me if I'm wrong. Does he not have to know somebody at Feld or at MX Sports or something? I mean, how does he continue to race? I mean, how do they continue to just look past it all the time? I don't get it.
The thing I don't understand about him is, I mean, he's a good starter. He's a real good starter. He's got to be, but I mean, I don't know if he just loses his crap when he's in the heat of battle and just throws caution to the wind, or is that what he has to do to be competitive? I don't know. It doesn't make sense, but you think that at some point they'd be like, hey man, quit cross jumping, quit, hammering people in the corners when it's not necessary. What's all that about? I mean, remember when Weston Pike like beat the crap out of him because he took him down,
And
and
that was a guy.
I don't know.
Ugh.
I don't know, man. I
The
don't know
fact
why
that he survived that guy. I mean, that was a man's man.
Yeah.
I mean, geez.
Well,
I'm
to
sorry.
me, I think it gets back to the riders as a commodity. I think the reason the AMA and Feld and everybody goes along with it is because it's keeps selling tickets. And like of the 75,000 fans in a Supercross arena, the 5,000 of us that actually ride moto are like, this is stupid. But the other people like it. I
makes
think
sense.
that's what it is. I don't think there's any question as to if it's okay or not. It's not okay. And how many people are getting hurt. And plus it just ruining races too. And it kind of is the same with the lappers. It's like,
Right.
just do something about it. Like the people that are concerned about the actual race are sick of it.
Right.
And then what makes it even worse is then to go back to our conversation an hour ago, we got all these kids at home watching this.
Right.
And then, I mean, I'll never forget like the first time I was at Renner on a practice track and some 14-year-old just came out and fully took out my front wheel. And it was a hard crash on just a practice day. And it's like, dude, that is not okay.
Right.
And that never happened in the 80s, 90s. It's like, it's a dangerous sport. We don't need to make it dangerous for stupid reasons.
Right.
But I don't know. I have zero sympathy for Weston Pike. I think they should pull his license.
Oh, you mean Vince Freezy?
Vince Freezy, right? Yeah, no, yeah, not Weston. And and it's funny because I like Barsha for because he rides. I think he's very driven and he rides for fun. But I also think it's kind of like in baseball. If it's okay to cheat on leading off, we're all going to do it. You know what I mean? It's like,
sure,
you'd be stupid not to. And
right.
And it's hard to blame even Freezy for it. It's like it works for him. He's making good money doing it.
The big difference there though is the 51, he's in that top 10.
Yeah.
Vince Freezy never was, never has been, never will be.
That's a really good point. Yeah.
He's never going to be racing for the championship. And yeah, I don't know. Probably enough said.
Yeah.
But, well, do we got anything else anybody wants to touch base on, or?
No, I think that's about it.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, been good talking to you guys, and
good talking to you guys.
Had a good time. I guess everybody, thanks for watching the show. We're really glad you were here, and keep posted. We will be doing this quite regular now. We're going to be talking about the races. We're going to be talking about the after the races. We're going to be recapping our races here at the Gypsies. So a lot of exciting things coming this summer. And again, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.
All right. Thanks a lot, Brad.
See you guys.
See you guys.
See you later, Chip.